Thank you very much. Good morning. So let me ask you, what do these flip-flops have to do with bank accounts? Well, for 1.7 billion people on the planet today, this is how you move money from A to B. So you have to walk to the water utility company to pay for the water. You have to walk to the school of your children to pay for the tuition. You have to walk to your family to give them the money you have earned. You walk, and you walk. These are called pati-pati in Kenya. They are called Hawaii chapal in India, meaning Hawaii slippers. In Ghana, they are called cholewoti. I like this one the best. It translates like, let's go, friend, let's walk together. So the question then is, why have banks left a little bit less than the third of the world population unbanked? It's an ugly word. Why is that so? There are 4 barriers. I'll show you that 3 of them can be overcome today, with your help as well in Europe. I'll show you how. There is a 4th barrier that's a little bit more difficult, which we'll talk about as well. So the first barrier is reaching the poor where they are. Statistics shows us that about 78% of the poor in the world live in rural areas. So of course, for a bank to build a branch or ATMs in these rural areas doesn't make sense financially. In fact, serving probably these customers doesn't make sense financially as well. So that has been a problem. Now, 90% of the world's poor have this, a mobile phone. Not a smartphone yet, but a mobile phone. And I'll show you that this is a really adequate and sufficient instrument to obtain a digital wallet and be able to send money. Examples. In Kenya, probably some of you have heard of the M-Pesa system. M-Pesa, Pesa means money in Swahili. Quite successful. They provide a service called mobile money. And literally, I can send money from this phone exactly like I send a text message. It works. And it's instant. Ask yourself, can we do that here today, here in Europe? Probably not, right? In Kenya, it's been hugely successful. 28 million users of M-Pesa are there. It's almost 60% of the population. There is another system like that called B-Cash in Bangladesh that has 21 million users. Bangladesh is a much bigger country, so that's 13% of the population. So it works. It really works. And the mobile money systems, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa today, there are more than 250 instances of such services. And there are more mobile money wallets in Africa today than there are bank accounts. So I think we can safely say that the first barrier is removed. We can overcome that pretty easily. Good, so that's then on to the second barrier. Second barrier is something we heard already this morning, is risk. So how can we engage in serving this new segment of the customers who are very different than traditional banking customers? It's quite risky. But you all certainly know here, being from the business, that doing business is all about risk. Example again. On the left side of this chart, you can see the mobile phone penetration in sub-Saharan Africa from 96 to today. You can see how this grew because mobile phone has created, in fact, a market that didn't exist at all. And in Africa, there are no landlines. They have completely bypassed landlines, went on directly to mobile phones. The companies who started this in 1996, they took a huge risk, huge investments to get this going. Now, of course, you see the rest is history. And you can see that it's less and less risky these days to engage in serving the poor. Sorry, if I can get a slide back, please. Mobile money is growing on that same rate. I'll show you the example of a company called Paytm in India. They provide an electronic wallet, mobile money wallet in India. You can see how they grew in 3 years, 200 million customers. So mobile money is following that exponential curve as well. So we can see how companies are engaging. And let me show you, this is a chart that was produced recently by the World Bank, tagging some of the fintech startups who are active in one way or the other in financial inclusion. You can see the categories going from lending, savings, payments, insurance. There are many companies from Europe here on that chart. TransferWise is one example, and there are many others. So one of the key messages I want to give you today is that there is a revolution happening in Africa in payments, and we can see how the risk is being reduced more and more people are engaging. So you can see a little bit what your next step could be. Okay, so that was the second barrier. The third barrier is monopoly. And I'm not talking about the board game. I'm talking about monopolistic situations. In some of the countries I've shown you, one issue is now becoming apparent, is that the early pioneers of mobile money and digital financial services are becoming a little selfish, and because they are in dominant positions, so they are hesitant to share. And so that means, for example, in Kenya today, even though 60% of the population is covered, nevertheless, if you want to send money to someone, both of the sender and receiver have to be clients of M-Pesa. And so that's becoming a problem because we still have 1.7 billion people to cover, and we need exponential growth. Monopolies don't lead to exponential growth. Just think about mobile phones, right? Imagine if you have a mobile phone, you can call only people on the same network as you. It wouldn't be very useful. Mobile phones have been interoperable, as we say, right from the beginning. And so we need interoperability in mobile money services, which is really the next big challenge after the original innovation of mobile money instant payments. Now the interoperability is really the next step. So how do we enable interoperability between these pioneers? There are many ways, and I'll tell you a couple of ways that can be useful. One is that to make it easy. So the Gates Foundation, who I work for, we have commissioned the development of an open source software that makes interoperability between financial services very easy. The software is called Moja Loop. Moja means one in Swahili. Moja Loop is a software that allows to create one loop between many financial service providers. It's open source, it's free. For those who are curious and who are technologists, you can go to the website mojaloop.io, and you can actually have a look at the code. It allows interoperability. It allows tens of thousands of super small payment transactions per second to happen, which is, in fact, what is needed for such endeavors that we are working for. Other ways to help interoperability, the minister this morning has mentioned, you guys here in this room have lots of experience with interoperability because it was created in Europe with the SEPA, Eurozone, as we know, and now forging ahead again with PSD2, which is also quite interesting and related to interoperability. So my key message to you is there is a lot of things that you in this room and in Europe can help us with because you have the skills, you have the experience. I was talking with our hosts this morning. They have lots of experience in educating customers to these new endeavors. So there is a huge help that you can bring to us. In return, you can learn about the innovation of instant payments, person to persons, and bring them back home here. So that's about interoperability. I want to mention one other very important point about interoperability is that it creates what I call the Internet of Payments. In the future, we will be able to send and receive payments in the exact same fast, easy way that we access websites around. And these mobile money systems are the precursor to that. So think about the possibilities for the new Ubers or the new TransferWise and the new startups that this will create. A huge opportunity to serve 1.7 billion new customers. Great. So we covered 3 of the barriers which we saw can be overcome easily today. Reaching the customers, reducing the risk in serving these new customers, increasing interoperability. There is a 4th barrier that has nothing to do with science and logic and computers and IT. It is a psychological barrier. What we need to do is when we look at these 2 customers on the screen, when you look at the person on the left, people in the business tend to see poverty. They tend to see rather the person on the right as their client. The person on the right has shoes, has perhaps a car, a house. That's the person that everyone targets with financial services. Well, I'll tell you, it's wrong to think like that. It's wrong 1.7 billion times every day. The customers on the left are the future customers. They will bring, they are the new account holders. They are the new MSME. They are the new innovators that we need to enable. And so my message to you today, to wrap up the speech, is help us build this Internet of Payments. For the technical people in the room, have a look at Mojaloop. For the others, look at this revolution of instant real-time payments happening. Help it happen, bring it over here to Europe as well to serve your customers. And then foster innovation. And at the end, remember, these are your new customers. Thank you.